I'm a better person. You need to understand that you have a neshama. You have a neshama. It means that there's something that you cannot grasp with your physical senses, but it is more real and it exists more, and it's the most realistic thing that exists. It's more eternal than anything else we could grasp and understand. And that's when we call neshama. Has many words. We can call it neshama. We can call it olam haba. What? Chapter 1. So we said bi'ur klal chovat adam be'olamo. First of all, we need to clarify what is the obligation in our world. As we said, from the Ramchal, we learn many things, not only from the actual reading the book, but from the headlines we learn so much. Rule number 1, chovat adam be'olamo. We're going to learn about the obligation you have in this world. What are you talking about, obligations? I don't have any obligations. I'm here to do whatever I want, to just care about myself and have fun. That's what I'm told. That's what you're told in the Western world. And that's why in the Western world you have the largest growing disease is depression. Because if you're told that this world is the world of pleasure and having fun, and there's no obligations, then you're constantly frustrated and depressed. So just the headline, Klal Chovat Adam, and we'll talk about Be'olamo in a minute. But just that headline, the obligation that you have in the world, you're in a world of obligations. You have obligations to your family. You have obligations to God. You have the obligations to your nation. You have obligations to your country. You have obligations to your wife. This is a world of obligations. And you need to look at the obligations as an opportunity, as a gift, that's wonderful. It's like I tell people when they get married. Don't think that you now just won the lottery. You did not. If you won the lottery, you're getting married, and this is it. I won the lottery. I won the fortune. I just found the fortune. She's perfect. I'm perfect. She's beautiful. Everything. We're at the peak of success. Right? This is like the greatest gift in the world, and there's nowhere to go higher. Then what happens the next day? Boom, you crash. You can only go downhill. If right now she's so beautiful and she's so perfect and he's so perfect and we're great and we reach the peak, it's only downhill. But if you look at the marriage, as we just found the map for the treasure. Wake up in the morning, put on your gear, take your pitchfork, and let's go for the journey to go and find the fortune. And if you look at your whole life as a process of growth and development and the opportunity we talked about before of coming out of your selfishness and your prison of selfishness, then and it's a constant. You're finding more clues and more, and small fortunes on the way to the great fortune. You find children, you find personal growth, you find each other. You become better. But it's all about, first of all, set your sights. What's the mission? What's the purpose in this world? Is the purpose to have pleasure, which are far and few between, or is it to work, to serve God, to fulfill obligations, to pay the debts? The Gemara asks a question. I don't understand. It says in the Torah, Poked avon avot al banim v'al shilishim v'al revi'im. God punishes the children for their grandparents and their great-grandparents. 4 generations back. So the Gemara says, first of all, first question, how come you didn't ask this question when it said ושומר הבטחתו ולאוהביו ומצוותיו לאלף דור. How come you didn't ask a question that when you do something good, it goes for 1,000 generations forward, and the negative goes only 4 generations back? So first of all, you see the simulation. There's no simulation. The good is so much greater than the negative. The good goes 1,000 generations forward. The negative goes 4 generations back. And the Gemara says, but okay, you're still asking the question? Why should I be punished for... What do you mean? You get the good and the bad. So the good, you get 1,000 generations forward. The bad, you have to pay the price 4 generations back. You come with you have to pay the debt of your ancestors. That's the way it works. And then the Gemara says the most incredible thing. It's only b'machzik avon avotav biyadav. You only get punished for the sins of your father and your grandfather and your great-grandfather if you continue to act the way they did. In other words, you have the choice to break the cycle. It's very hard. You grew up somebody, your father learned from his father learned from his father learned from his father. It's already, how do you say, this is your inheritance of the negative character traits, the negative behaviors. That's why it's, by the way, statistics show somebody that comes from a divorced home has a 50% higher chance to get divorced than a person who doesn't come from a broken home. Because why in the world should you know how to communicate with another person if you never saw how it works? A person, they see how their parents act, and that's the way they act to their partner. That's perfect sense. Unless you make a choice that you are going to work on it and you are going to change the pattern, you are going to change the reality, and you're going to stop this pattern, right? The egel, cheta egel. You ever hear of the sin of the golden calf? Okay. What does egel in Hebrew stand for? What word is that? Egel. Calf. Egel is a calf, but also what is it? It's agol. It's a circle, right? It's something that I made a square. It's something that repeats itself. A circle goes around and around, and it's right. It's just going. It's getting stuck into that loop that you can't get out of, and that's just like Einstein said. The definition of insanity is doing the same act and expecting a different outcome. If your father got divorced because the way he acted, then why do you think that you're going to do the same thing and something's going to change? It takes hard work. It takes real choice and effort to change that vicious cycle. But it's possible. That's the good news. Not only is it possible, it's the reason why you're in this world. So first, rule number 1, once you look at life as chovat adam, as the obligations I have, you're so happy. Because everywhere you look, you have an obligation, you have an opportunity to fulfill an obligation. That's a very important observation, just from the headline, the opening statement, the title of the chapter. Second observation, klal chovat adam. What should it say? We're going to learn about the obligation of a person in his world. In the world. That's what it should say. Klal chovat adam ba'olam. We're in a world, and there's obligations. But what does it say? Klal chovat adam be'olamo. In your world. Stop looking around, comparing yourself to other people. The opening of this book is learn exactly where you stand and what will it take for you to grow, to move forward. I know Aleph, I need to learn Bet. I know Bet, I need to learn Gimel. The reason why we get stuck in this big problem, because school is based on a system where they say, okay, the majority of the people could know, this amount of information when they're in first grade. So if you're the majority, you're okay. But what happens if you're under the majority? What happens if you're over the majority? You're struggling, you're suffering. The kids at risk are the kids that are above majority and under majority. Because if it takes you 5 minutes to learn for the test and you get 100, and another 45 minutes of the class you're just wasting your time, you don't deserve 100. And if the 10% that's below average, if it took you 7 hours to prepare for the test, because you're not in the average, it's harder for you, and it took you 7 hours and you got 50 and you failed, that's not true. The Torah is based, how does God reward you for your effort? How does God reward you in heaven for your learning? He doesn't come and say, Yosef, Moshe, how many pages of the Gemara did you learn? He says, Moshe, Yosef, how many hours did you learn? God doesn't care how many pages you learned. It's about Abdam le'amal yulad. A person was created for the effort. So the effort is are you maximizing your potential? Are you always trying to become better? Are you always trying to grow? God says, En Akadosh Baruch Hu ba b'trunya nimbratav. God doesn't come, he doesn't want to make your life hard. He doesn't want to make it difficult for you. But he's always challenging you. Exactly, he knows who you are inside out. And he knows the test that is exactly enough where you can choose to break, where you can choose to overcome and grow. And you always have that choice. You're always tested. Exactly, tailor-made test for you. What's not too hard for you and what's not too easy for you. You're always being pushed to grow. But the problem is when you start looking around, they know only this. A person next to me only knows Aleph Bet. I already know Gimel Dalet. I don't have to do anything. No, you have to now learn Vav Zayin Chet. Know yourself. Right when the Corona happened, someone came to Rabbi and said, Rabbi, what does it mean when Corona happens? What do I need to work on? Right? Because you have to do tshuva when negative things happen. He said, you do tshuva on the fact that you don't know what you need to work on. A person should know his weaknesses, his strengths. How am I going to make my strengths better, and how am I going to overcome my weaknesses? Okay, so that's why it doesn't say Chavat Adam Ba'olam. It's not about the obligation of a person in the world. This is not a general message for the people in the world. It's for you in your world, and don't look left or right and compare yourself to other people. Look inside and compare yourself to yourself. And how can I grow? So you saw the Chassidut. So the first important thing is yitbarer v'yitamet etzel adam ma chovalato lamot. So first it has to become clear to you your obligations in life. What are your obligations? It's like a person says, what should I be doing in my life? What should I be working in? What should be what should I be doing in the world? So first of all, as a Jewish people, you have a mission. Do the mitzvot, you're doing your mission. As an individual, you have to know where your weaknesses are, your strengths, what gives you a passion, what gives you joy, where are your talents, where's your passion, where's your talents, and based on that, what are the needs in the world that I can work on in the job. But the first question is, lema tzarich sheyasim mabato umegamato bechol asher omer kol mechayav. What is the goal of all goals that I should set for myself? Before you start moving forward, of how to become more cautious, how to become more alive, more passionate, more excited, how do I serve God with passion? All these things are great. first set the goal. What's the goal? What's my goal in life? You want to know what your goal of all goals in life is? What should be the one thing that you should be putting all of your effort and all of your work in to achieve? Is lit'aneg. You were created lit'aneg al Hashem v'nenot meziv shchinato. So you just told me that in the Western world the goal is pleasure. And now you're telling me, according to Torah, according to the rabbis taught us, the goal of all goals is pleasure. I don't understand. Is the goal pleasure? Is the goal not pleasure? The goal is not physical pleasures. In the Western world, the goal is physical pleasures. In the Jewish world, the means are physical pleasures. You need to have physical pleasures in order to litaneg al Hashem, to have the pleasure of the closeness, litaneg al Hashem, the pleasure and the joy and the bliss of connecting to God and enjoying the presence of the Shekhinah. So that's it's a small nuance. The pleasure is not the goal. Physical pleasures are not the goal. Physical pleasures are the means towards the goal of the spiritual pleasure of the closest to God that is achieved in the next world. Wow. Now this is deep. Rav Kook has a whole essay where he explains. He says, what? This sounds selfish. Even if the goal is to have spiritual pleasure of closest to God in the next world, it still seems very selfish. First of all, we're at the beginning of the book. Secondly, he gives 8 different answers of different explanations. We're not going to go into it now. But the idea is, there's nothing wrong, and not only is nothing wrong, the goal is closest to Hashem. And it's not because you want to have reward, it's because that is Avodat Hashem. That is the service of Hashem, is having the pleasure of the closeness to God, of doing the will of God. And where do we learn this from? The rabbis taught us, this world is, we spoke about that the world is the hallway. Do we have something to erase? Oh yeah, here. So the rabbis taught us that this world is the hallway that leads you into the hall. So the rabbis taught us, העולם הזה דומה לפרוזדור בפני העולם הבא. Here's the hallway. First of all, this world and the next world are under one roof. So the first thing to know, it's not 2 separate realities. This world and the next world are one entity. This world is dark because it's the hallway, and the hall is light. And Rav Tzvira said, when you open the door between this world and the next world, the billions of lights illuminate the dark hallway. And that's what we're learning here, is how do we open the door? We learn about Olam Haba. And the way to reach Olam Haba, or you could say it's the hallway, the way to reach Olam Haba is through the mitzvot. So you could say maybe there isn't even a hallway. Our job is to build the hallway. Our job is to build a bridge between this world and the next world. And every mitzvah we build is one string of the bridge for us to be able to get to Olam Haba. Okay? And that's why God gave us all the mitzvot. That the mitzvot are the bridge, the way for us to get to Olam Haba. And that's why it says, Hayom lasotam umachar lekabel scharam. So there's like a split between this world and the next world. Or you could say an imaginary wall. This is the world of Hayom lasotam. This is the asiyah. Here you need to work. And there, sachar, here you get the reward. So the people that say you're here just you have pleasure all the time, they're saying it's all about just reward. This world is the world for reward. And it's not true. This is the world of effort and of work. Okay? We go on. When you look into it, if you look into in depth, if you learn Torah, then you'll understand why did God do it? Why did God do it that we don't see the reward in this world? Right? We said, why is it just the world? This is the world of effort. The next world is the world of pleasure, of receiving the reward. This is avodah. Here is avodah, and here is reward, or the true pleasure. So, according to Rav Kook, says that in order that we'll be able to serve Hashem, the Shem Shamayim, right, and not to do it for the physical pleasure. Therefore, God did it that we don't experience the reward in this world now. Like we said, it's not like the Coke slot machine where you put in the money and you get the reward. You do the mitzvah, now you feel it, now you experience it. Now, that once Rav Kook's son-in-law asked him, I'm learning Torah, I'm doing mitzvah, I don't feel the reward. I don't feel the pleasure. And he said, neither do I. And he was like, what? Yeah, this is not the place to try to feel it or experience it. You know you're doing the right thing. You have a little bit of, you get a taste so that you can keep going. But you have to understand what's your goal. If your goal is to be getting the pleasure and all the time be experiencing the reward, it's not what it's about. Here you need to focus on the work. And that's why he says it's very important that, and that's what we learned from King David. He said, Hashlemut ha'amiti, true success, rak hadvekut b'Hashem yitbarach. When we talk about olam haba, with that pleasure with Hashem, it's talking about dvekut. Having that pleasure is having this attachment to God. And in this world, with our physical senses, our physical bodies, our physical entity, we cannot have that full level of dvekut. But that should be our goal. That should be what we should be wanting. And that's why King David said, Vani kirvat Elohim li tov. If I had a choice, that one thing that is good is kirvat Elohim, this closeness of God. And achat shadi mit Hashem otai vakesh, shibti vet Hashem kol mechayai. If I could choose one wish, if God would say to me, what's the one thing you want? Pick one thing. You can't pick 10, one. I would say, I want to sit in the house of Hashem. I want to have this closeness of Hashem. And of course, there's levels of how much closeness you have. But that's what I want. And what people think, all these ideas of what good is, oh, it's good if I have money, respect, physical things, all these big lists that we have. Anything but this. Kirvat Elohim, closest to God, or sitting in Hashem's home, that is the ultimate purpose and ultimate goal of creation, is to have that closeness of Hashem, sitting in the house of Hashem, which means doing the will of Hashem, and everything else that people think is good. We have a whole list of all the good things that we want. What does King David say? Ramchal says, "Kol zulat zeh shechshu bnei adam letov en el hevel shav v'nit'eh." Anything else that we think is good, or we have in our understanding what is true good, is nonsense. Hevel shav nit'eh. It's worthless. It's wrong. Omnam sheizkel adam latova. But if you want to reach this greatness, you want to reach shitivet Hashem. You want to reach and kirvat Elohim litov, with this closeness to God, attachment to God. It doesn't come through just a gift. like Christianity. You can't do it on your own. You can only do it through him. No. So how do you get it? Ra'ui she'amol rishona. You have to work very hard on it. Ya'amol rishona. First, you must work hard. Vishtadel v'yigi'o liknota. And try with your effort to acquire it. And that's what the mitzvot are. The mitzvah is creating, like we said, a bridge to closest to God, a bridge to the next world, a bridge to dvekut b'Hashem, to attachment to God. Okay, we move on.
So does that mean that if I'm doing the mitzvah and I'm actually weak on that mitzvah, it means that the bridge that I'm building is also weak?
Yeah, they say also, we spoke before, how the mitzvot are correspond to your different limbs, and you're creating a whole entity of Yosef in the next world, and then you go and you walk into your new body that you created, your new entity, spiritual entity, and yes, you'll be missing. So they say you could be missing a certain limb, if the mitzvah corresponds to the certain limbs, or like you said, the bridge, or it says in the Mesilat Yesharim later on, depending on how a person needs motivation. Some people need motivation through respect. Yes, you will build a mansion, and somebody else will build a shack. Exactly. It says, Kol Yisrael, great question. Kol Yisrael shlem chelek l'olam haba. All of Israel has a place in the world to come. It's true. But how big your place is, how perfected is it, how refined it is, how great it is, that how big is your chelek is based on exactly the quality of the mitzvot you do, and that you do, and that all the mitzvot that you do. It's all creating your next world. That's one way of explanation, but I think that's a good idea. That's the explanation to somebody who's talking, because there's 3 different levels how to explain Olam Haba. To people who need the respect, to people who need, or people that are idealistic and they need a different explanation. So I don't know how you would explain it to them. The effect in the world will be less if you don't do the mitzvah perfectly. Like the Rav Kook, his son-in-law, asked him, how do I find joy? Or somebody asked him, how do I find joy from a mitzvah? Sorry. How can I be happy in life? So Rav Kook said, imagine I could tell you that there's an act that you can do that will uplift not only you, but all of mankind. Would that make you happy if you could do an act like that? And he said, yes. That's what a mitzvah is. The Rambam says when you do a mitzvah, you have to think the whole world is on a scale, 50-50. 50 positivity, 50 negativity. The whole world is now half-half. And my mitzvah now tilts the scale to positivity for the whole entire world. That's what a mitzvah is. So that would be an explanation for somebody who is idealistic. So we spoke the idealistic person. We spoke the person that needs the respect, would be how big is your house. And then there's the fear. You don't do a mitzvah, you'll be punished, or you'll lose reward. So there's different ways of explaining that. Okay? That's already in the chapter of Zehirut, Kniyat Zehirut, how to acquire it, and how to motivate yourself towards that. That's the motivation. והנה שמח הקדוש ברוך הוא באדם מקום שרבים בו מרחיקים אותו ממנו יתברך. God placed us in a world where you have challenges. Purposely. It wasn't a mistake in God's creation that we have so many things that are pulling us away from God. And what are those things that pull us away from God? Vehem hem ata'avot achomriyot. The physical desires pull us away from God. Asher yimashech achreim umitrachek v'olech min hatov ha'amiti. Right? It's like the true good is waiting for you. Here you are. You walk into a store and you have a mission. Your wife gave you a list to go buy eggs and milk. Always the eggs and the milk are, if you ever want to know where the eggs and milk are, they're always at the back of the store. Because they want you to pass by all the things you don't need. Right?
Yeah, in Rami Levy also.
If it was in the front, you'd come in, take milk, and walk out. But if you go through everything, you end up buying lots of things you don't need. It's a parable. So God put you in the world with a mission. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Unite God's name. Sanctify God's name. Kiddush Hashem in the world. That's your mission. You have the mission statement. But you come into this world and you get dragged into all these different areas. And you have to just keep in mind one thing. If you want to make it to the milk and eggs, if you want to make it to the Vikut Vechut B'Hashem, if you want to make it to the Lit'aneg al Hashem, so keep in mind one thing. This is the only good thing in life, is this attachment to God, Dvekut B'Hashem. This is the only good thing. Now I walk in and I see something that looks good. Looks good. And I start taking a left. I start turning towards that thing that looks good. At that point, you have to say, whoa. If I am now getting dragged after these materialistic desires, I'm losing sight of my mission. I lost sight of my mission, right? And I'm actually going away from good. Why am I going to those physical desires that I know are negative for me? Because I'm looking for something good. This is good. I have to tell myself I'm actually going further away from the true good. This is not true good. This is distancing me away from good. The true good is if I remember my mission, if I remember that I want Vikut B'Hashem, I want attachment to God, I want closeness to God. This is the greatest pleasure of all pleasures. This is what's good. So it's not that I'm losing out on something good because I'm not going to those negative things, to the pornography or whatever the things are. I'm actually going away from true good. The true good is attaching myself from God. And v'nimtza shehu musam be'emet. I'm not fooling you. I understand. You are in betoch milchama chazaka. You are in a very powerful war. This is a battle. This is a challenge. I'm not telling you that I think it's easy and what's the big deal. No, I know. God knows. God made you a Yetzer Hara. He knows what you're made of. And if He's telling you, I know that this is a big challenge. I know you're in a big war. Ki kol inyanei ha'olam. Everything in this world, ben letov ben mutav, hina nisyonot la'adam. These are challenges that God is giving us. A nisayon means, like we said, it's not too easy and it's not too hard. But it's definitely a challenge. And this is, God is challenging you now. And whatever situation you're in, you'll always be challenged. Whether you're poor or you're rich. Whether you're sick or you're healthy. Whether you have relaxation in your life or whether you have suffering in your life. At every moment, at every second, you are challenged based on your abilities. And you need to stand up to the plate. You have to fight that war. You have to be that hero. And like Shlomo Melech said, God, please don't make me too rich because I'll say I don't need you. God, don't make me too poor because I'll steal. Everything is a challenge. Poor, rich, healthy, sick, suffering, relaxed, no challenges. It's all a test. And you have to understand, you're a soldier, you are a fighter. And the Ramchal says that basically what the Ramchal is saying is that everything in this world is a challenge. And it's to really check where are you morally? Where are you standing morally? Right? But Rav Kook adds one more thing. that the job of these challenges are to form your moral state. It's not just to put you in a test. It's like we said before, not just to get rid of negative things. It's to bring you to that positive place. So you have to understand you're always tested. Don't say, "Oh, if only I had money, then I wouldn't have a test. If only I was married. If only I had kids. If only I had." The challenges are always there. They're always there, and you have the choice to accept that I am a warrior, I'm a fighter, I'm taking on this challenge. I know God is with me. I know God loves me. I know this challenge is not beyond my abilities. I know it's what I'm able to handle. Once you say that, once you understand that, then you are able. Then, Adam Shalem, you will become that whole person, that complete person. Asher yizkeh lidabek beborot, and you will be merited to attach yourself to your Creator. V'yitzeh min hapozdo, you will come out of that hallway. V'yikanes latren, you'll be that person that goes into the hall, the lights, the billions of lights, to the light of life. Everything I'm telling yourself, I'm telling me. This is a reminder. Ramchal says these things, it's not something you learn and you say, okay, I got it. It's something you have to constantly remind yourself and go over. It's not a book of knowledge. This is a workbook. These things, they need to be reviewed and understood and reminded about them every day. These messages, very important messages. And you will be that person that will go into the hall, to the light, the Or HaChaim, into the light of life. And according to the effort, like you said, according to the amount that you conquered your desires. There's a story of in the Russian army, how would you get in to become the commando unit? You need to go on a horse, a wild horse, and if you could hold on for 10 seconds, you got in. Everybody falls. But do you hold on? Are you fighting? Are you trying? So today I held on 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6, 4, but I'm fighting it. I'm doing it. Everybody falls. Rav Kook says we are not built in a way that we will not make mistakes. But we are built in a way where we have to learn from our mistakes and we have to be careful not to make mistakes. We will make mistakes. And that's just the way it is. But we have to learn from them and we have to be careful to try that they shouldn't happen. And not just say, this is how I am, accept me, and too bad. Okay? So, if you're that person, you're fighting, you will have that and you will have the joy. After hearing this, you say, I don't want to end on a negative thing, the challenges and how difficult it is. The next piece the Ramchal talks about is, so you say, I don't want to be in this world. Challenges. Everything's a challenge. Everything's a difficulty. I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm sick, I'm healthy. I'm always challenged. Relax. Im ta'amik b'inyan, if you look in depth, it's not just about you. Ki adam, if you're that person that controls himself, you're not just uplifting yourself, Yosef. You are mit'aleh, you're lifting up yourself. Ve'olam atzmo mit'aleh imo. The whole world is uplifted with you. Because the whole world wants to be uplifted and is waiting for you to pick me up. So we'll end with that. Hazak.